Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited for what I'm doing for today's video. It's a little different from what we usually do. We usually play some horror games and we have some fun. But right now, I really want to show you something that I'm interested in. Dungeons and Dragons. I love Dungeons and Dragons. But it can be really hard. Especially as a new DM or a new person trying to get into Dungeons and Dragons in general. Now, I'm a new dungeon master. I've run one campaign in general, and coming up is a new campaign that I'm able to run. Now I'm super excited and I can't wait. But I know a lot of people don't know what to do or how to start off running a campaign. So, for example, here's some stuff that I've worked on over my time DMing. So what I like to do is start off with basic shapes: squares, circles, rectangles, triangles, and once you start off creating a basic beginning, right? We'll get to that in a second. So once you can use basic shapes just to create amazing storytelling. This wasn't finished, but as you can see, I used tons of different kinds of shapes to create amazing stories for my players. Let's start off on a new page. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to start off with a pencil. Okay, a pencil can be used for everything that you're gonna need. Start off with a basic shape like a square. Start off. Let's say this is a store. Okay, right here is a store. But let's create another building for this example. We are going to create, remember, we want it to be nice and symmetrical. So I would suggest using grid paper or lined paper. Doesn't matter. Make sure it's nice and symmetrical and even. And draw out the shape. It could be a square, a rectangle, any shape you want. Could be an octagon. And just do the basic lines like that. Now, what I like to do is after I have my lines set up, drawn out for my building, what I like to do is get a pen. This is my favorite pen right here. Pentel, RSVP, or whatever. Anyways, I like to get a black pen to start off with. Don't use blue or red or any other colored pens yet. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. So for your black pen, what you want to do is go ahead and draw out your building. Draw out your building like so. And then I like to add little small details like a door. I like to use two little lines to showcase a doorway. See? Just like so. And if your players are like out of the box thinkers, you know that they're going to do some wild stuff. They're going to have some wild ideas like jumping out of windows and stuff like that. What I like to do is for windows is make a little rectangle. Just a little rectangle. See? Just like these two buildings. So, after you're done adding small stuff like that, like windows and doors, like let's say this building has a back door. If you want to say this building has a locked door, what I like to do is I just like to add little symbols to things. Like if say there's a window there, right, made out of glass. Okay, that's breakable. So you don't really need to add anything to that because they're gonna know that's a breakable window. But for you as the DM, this paper is the paper you draw out is just for you. This is just for you for when you run your campaign. You set and you draw everything out and you put your players on the board. This is just for you for reference for when you have your session, so you can actually put what your ideas are out into the game. So say you want a reminder for yourself. Put a little symbol that this door is locked. Little lock, see? Little lock. This door needs a key. A back door. Say this. So this is a store, right? Let's say this is a store. This is a weaponsmith. I always like to draw either inside the building or on the outside. Weaponsmith. Let's say this is a potion store. So weaponsmith and a potion store. Okay? So I like to add small details like maybe since this is the back door right here, there's a back room. Maybe there's a back room. Okay? And right here is a counter. And let's say there's another doorway right here. Okay? So there's a counter here, a back room, and a locked door right here. So the reason why I put these little lines here is because if you draw out your shape, right? If you draw out your shape, well, it's like, oh, well, I didn't leave any holes for windows or doors, because you don't necessarily know where they're gonna go yet. Your baseline is to just draw a shape of a building, and then you can add from there, like different rooms. Like say this building right here, I want to add a different room. I can add. Let's say I want to add. Let's start off right there. Start off right here, and I want to add a triangular room right to this building here. So what I do is I add my little door, and oh, well, we want to say it's locked. We want to say this door is locked, and there's an extra room here. You don't have to add windows or anything like that. It's super basic. All you have to do is add furniture or anything, any key details. You don't have to add furniture. You don't have to add any of this stuff. It's just for you for reference, so you don't forget later down the line when you do sit down with your players. I love doing this. For example, I had drawn up a hotel, and as you can see, I drew a fountain, I drew desks, I drew doors, stairs, you name it, I drew it. But you can also, what I like to do is, for say this is a weaponsmith area, I like to put down on my secondary page. I always make sure I have 2 pages. When I have a secondary page, I put down like where I put down what the weaponsmith is selling. I put it right over here. I write down what the weaponsmith is selling, or I can put down what the potion store is selling, stuff like that, basic stuff. Sometimes I'll even put. I normally don't, but sometimes what I'll do is I'll grab a different colored pen and I'll write down where a person would be. Let's draw a little circle to show where a person would be. Let's go ahead and put a counter over here. Let's say he's got shelves. He's got shelves, and then he's got his counter space, and he goes right here. Okay? And that's basic stuff. You can do that for anything. Like, let's do another example. Let's say we want to let's make a, let's use an octagon shape. Why not? Let's just use an octagon shape. Or we can do any shape like this. We draw out our shape. Draw out our shape. So all you have to do is draw out your shape first. See this weird looking shape here? Just draw out your shape. Trace over it with a pen. Like so. And this could be anything. I mean, it could be a weird tent. It could be just a straight up weird building, or it could be a fenced in area. You can make it a fenced area. Let's do a fenced area. Let's say if we're making a fenced area over here, we're making a fenced area over here. What I like to do is I like to draw posts, right? So I like to do posts. See? Just like dots like that. And then go ahead and connect your lines. See? That simple, that easy. Let's call this, let's put the door here. Mr. Wacky's Emporium. Okay, Mr. Wacky's Emporium. Just because that's why it's a weird building. Let's just say because it's a weird building, the guy who owns the place is like super weird and crazy. And he's got shelves. He's got shelves. And tables. See there, table. You could do a little chair. And I love adding these little details, because these little details can go a long way, especially for your players. So if you add these little details in your little handbook, and then you later down the line for your players you draw it out, I think it adds a lot to your players. Like if you just do only basic shapes, they're just be like, oh okay, you know, this goes there, that goes there. But if you add detail to your buildings, your players are gonna have a blast. Absolute blast. Let's add, you know what? Let's add a wall. Let's add a room to this building. Let's add a room. And we'll add a chest. We'll add a chest in here. Okay? Very basic stuff. Now another thing is what I like to do is I like to, here, I'll show you in a second. This is new and unused. What I like to do is I like to get a dry erase board, a giant dry erase board. And these giant dry erase boards, you can use markers to draw over, like, what you can do is get your designs like this, and you can straight up draw them back out, but on a dry erase board. And once you draw it out on a dry erase board, you can use basic, like, you could use magnets, little plastic magnets that you get from a dollar store. And these little magnets from a dollar store, you can put onto the dry erase board, and you can use them as miniatures. You don't have to buy, like, these super detailed miniatures. You don't, like, as much as it would be fun, and as much as it's awesome, and you get to paint them and all that stuff, it's just not possible for people who don't have the money. So getting a cheap magnets, like with plastic tops, from a dollar store or Walmart or something like that is way cheaper than getting miniatures. And you can literally just get a marker and draw your player's first letter of their first names on the magnets. And then you can use red magnets, or you can color them however you want. You can use red magnets for the enemies. So the takeaway of this video is that there is so much you can learn and so much you can do from just starting off with basic stuff. Like, say you want to start them off in a town, or you want to start them off already on a mission doing something. You can do anything with, as long as you use basic shapes. Like, look, for example, this is a camp. And what I did is, instead of drawing out lines, I just added a little more detail, and I just made them look like, instead of drawing out just lines, I made them look like logs, because it's a giant encampment, like a little fortress. And, you know, I added details like boxes and a fire pit and blood on the ground and walking tracks. Like, if you see these dots, it's a pathway. These little dots here, you can see pathway. I like to add little stuff like clues and hints and stuff like that. So, like, or not clues and hints. I like to add details to the level. Let's say as a level. Like, look, this doorway needs this lever and this lever to be activated for the door to open. So if there's enemies coming in through here, they have to, maybe they're high level enemies, right? And they have to run instead of fight. They gotta use these levers to get out, to escape. Or maybe you can put a chest up in say this is where the enemies are heading in, right? Over here, you could put secrets, like a chest. You could put a chest over here, and maybe you could put gear in it, and if they charge and look for the loot, you know what I'm saying? If they look for loot and run from the enemy, they get to find some cool stuff. There's tons of cool stuff you can do. Here, look, different shapes. For example, look, you can add different little. You can take out pieces of your shapes. This was a rectangle. I just took out the ends here, so it looks like a giant tent. You can use shapes to add, like, a map table, rug, a bed, a wardrobe. I like to write the name of the stuff on it sometimes. Here's boxes. Here's an octagonal tent. See, there's a chair and 2 chairs and a table, and there's little beds, a chest, weapon rack. You can write down on it, and look, a fire pit. And then if you see these little dots all around, all these little dots, it's all tons of spaces where people have walked. like to add little details. Like, look, there's a hole in this grate outside, so they can sneak in, but they obviously the players have to roll a perception check to be able to see it. And you can go on a large scale or a small scale. Like, this is a whole town I drew up for a campaign. And then here's a whole city, a huge city, and you can do small, you can do levels, or you can do one floor. Now, oh, sorry, just moved my camera here. There's so much you can do just starting out as a dungeon master. And if you want to see more, or you have any questions, or you want to know what I do for certain situations, you can go ahead and just leave it in the comments down below, or you're interested in more videos about early DMing for new dungeon masters. Just let me know, and I'd be glad to make another video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.